over the intestinal wall, hindering us to absorb the nutrients coming from our food. So kinsa may mo absorb sila na kay sila naman himong wall, nakapilit naman sila dito sa intestine, no? So your giardia are highly parasitic in nature and they are under Fornicata. Another big group under the supergroup
Ah, that's right.
Echinopata is what you call the Parabasalia. No? So for your Parabasalia, these are flagellated again. Uh, they are mostly kanang endosymbiont of animals, so they are found inside animals. They lack cytostome, so they feed through phagocytosis. No? So, although wala sila katong grove, but they can eventually phagocytosize. No? There are two main groups under Parabasalia. You have Trichonymphida, which are obligate mutualists in insects. They are the ones who secrete the cellulase. So ang insects makadegrade, makadigest sila sa plant cell. But your Trichonymphida, they are asexual, but they can become sexual if they are triggered by the ecdysone coming from the insect. Your ecdysones are actually kind of hormones that induces what you call ecdysis process. No, when you say ecdysis, mo ni siya ang pag-shed sa outer exoskeleton sa inyong insects. Kana ganing mo molt na sila, no? So that's ecdysis. And the ecdysone, the hormone, which could also trigger the sexual reproduction of our trichonymphida. The other group is what we call trichomonadida, no? Mga trichomonas. They have no mitochondria, but what they have is the hydrogenosome. So, di ba your hydrogenosome is one particular product of endosymbiotic theory, no? As to where your cell is anaerobic, so they do not eventually use oxygen gas as the final electron acceptor, but they are actually using uh, hydrogen gas and producing CO2 through fermentation process. So wala sila mitochondria, na sila hydrogenosome. And they produce asexually, no? So meaning dali silang managhan. And this is quite advantageous because Trichomonadida, no, some genus of Trichomonas are actually kind of parasitic in nature. No? So for example, we have Trichomonas vaginalis, which is one of kind of mga sexually transmitted diseases in humans, no? Trichomoniasis. And then you also have the group Euglenozoa, so Euglena. From the name itself, Euglena are actually photosynthetic in nature because they have the green pigment chlorophyll. No? And mostly they are found in fresh waters. So kung makakita mo ka ng ponds na color green, usually these are actually Euglena, no? Or Euglenozoa. So there are two types. You have euglenoids, so these are the photosynthetic representatives of Euglenozoa. They have light receptor, no, so that they can eventually go to the light sources and photosynthesize. But you also have parasitic forms of Euglenozoa, and these are now your trypanosomes, Trypanosoma pod. Your trypanosomes are parasites of plants as well as humans, and they are having a global significance because these are quite also deadly, no? Makamatay sa din yung trypanosomes. For instance, you have leishmania, no, which is causing the leishmaniasis by sandfly. You also have the Trypanosoma cruzi, which causes the Chagas disease, no, transmitted by kissing bugs. I don't know if nakakita na mo kissing bugs, but we do have plenty of kissing bugs, no, there is sa Philippines. And you also have Trypanosoma brucei, which is causing now the African sleeping sickness transmitted by the chichi fly. So for Leishmania, Trypanosoma cruzi, and brucei, no, leishmaniasis, Chagas disease, and African sleeping sickness, one common symptom would be kana sakit-sakit sa joints and fever and vomiting, no? For Trypanosoma cruzi, this is transmitted by the kissing bug kay usually ang kanila nga insects, I think na ako picture here, no? So Reduviidae or the kissing bugs kay during sleeping time mubite ni sila sa inyong naong or cheek na area. That's why the term kissing bugs, no? And they do transmit the kanang Chagas disease. I think nakakita na siguro mo ani, no? Daghan ni sa atong balay. So be careful. And then they can induce vomiting, the loss of appetite, disease, and even fever and even death. No? This one here is the trypanosoma, which is kanang unsa ni being unsa ni what's the term nakalimot ko, being carried, no, by that chiche fly, no. So when you say katong African sleeping sickness, the name suggests that there is now the disruption in the kanang sleep and wake time of a person. So ma-disrupt na ang biological or circadian clock, no. That would mean that during daytime pirmi katugon ang tao, and that could ultimately lead to coma, no? So African sleeping sickness na sleep sila wala na jud sila kamata, no? That's also very very deadly. This one here is your euglena. So they have this eye spot which is a photoreceptor. Mupod ni sila ang ngita sa inyong light sources. And they do have the green pigment here. So they can eventually photosynthesize. So very much unsa ni opposing in terms of their nutritive behavior, because this one is photosynthetic and the other one is parasitic. So, but they are still grouped into one single group, which is Euglenozoa under Excavata. Another supergroup, no, aside from your supergroup Excavata, you also have the supergroup Amoebozoa. So amoeboid in nature. So you have now the presence of pseudopodia or the false feet, and they can be rounded, no, leucopodia, or long and narrow, what we call philopodia, or nut-like, reticulopodia. But all of them are actually pseudopodia, no, or false feet. Pseudo meaning false, pod meaning feet. Under your supergroup Amoebozoa would be the group of Tubulinia. For your Tubulinia, an example would be our Amoeba proteus. Okay, so they inhabit almost any environment, again with moist, no, kay mao man na ilang means of material transport. They are also free living, but some are parasitic in nature. That's why you have the disease amoebiasis, no, because the cause for that particular disease is an amoeba. Another group under Amoebozoa is what you call Intamibida, no? For your Intamibida, Intamoeba histolytica is the very most common example under Intamibida, no? They lack mitochondria but has mitosomes, no? Pareha ganina for your iron and sulfur and molecule acquisition. And then for their lifestyle, no, behavioral lifestyle, they can be commensal or parasitic in nature. So they can be kind of present in your organism, and they cannot cause any harm or benefit, but most of them also are very much parasitic. So your Intamoeba histolytica is the main cause of what we call amoebic dysentery. So if you have kanang contamination of Intamoeba, that means nga dapit siguro mo og piggery, for example, because these are kanang commensals of pigs, no. So kung naay mga contamination in water and food because of their proximity to piggery, then most probably the cause of mga diarrhea dito is your Intamoeba histolytica. Another group would be your Eumycetozoa. So for your Eumycetozoa, you have kanang common name as slime molds. So eventually, the name could be very much confusing because it says molds, but they are not fungi. No, they're actually protists, no, in nature. So they have what we call plasmodium or a mass of protoplasm. This is the main body of your slime molds, no, that forms your footing bodies when starved or dried. So there are two types of your slime molds. You can have the acellular, which forms a multi-nucleated plasmodium. So one big mass, dili siya differentiated into several cells, but that one big mass, you have numerous nucleus inside. You can also have the cellular slime mold, which is made up of several cells that are living together. No? So you have your pseudoplasmodium because it's not a true plasmodium because they are made up of several independent cells. No? So you have a cellular and cellular. Another supergroup under your Protista is what you call the SAR, no? SAR, which stands for Straminophiles, Alveolates, and Rhizaria. Okay, so these are monophyletic, so that's why they are now grouped together in one supergroup. No? And this includes now our kanang important protists, which are your Rhizaria, no, the Radiolaria and Foraminifera, which are now one kind of major contributor in the atmospheric oxygen, no? And we also have katong inyuhang um asa ni siya, mga apicomplexans, no? So here you have axopodia, no? Meaning kanang these are actually cellular projections that are used for feeding. So in your Rhizaria, you have two major groups. You have Radiolaria and you have Foraminifera. So the major difference here is that the skeletal morphology of your Radiolaria are highly variable, no? And the skeleton is made up of silica. No? So ang kaning skeleton niya, this is also called the test or the cell wall of your Radiolaria. So when you go to your Foraminifera, the philopodia katong for feeding are arranged in network. Some are free-living planktonic forms, but most are benthic. So when you say benthic, they are found at the bottom layer of kanang your seas, no, sa sedimentary layer. And the first examples of denitrifying eukaryotes are your foraminifera, no? And they form the ooze. So what do you mean by ooze? Kung mamatay na inyong foraminifera, all the tests there, kanilang mga cell walls, they would eventually settle down at the sedimentary layers. They will create the sediments, and those sediments now are what we call the ooze. No? So, mo na siya ang kanang mo form kung daghang mamatay nga for foraminifera. And your ooze is quite important because these are quite highly nutritious and very much rich in calcium. And in your marine habitat, your calcium is very important for your calciferous organism to form their houses, no? Most especially your coral reefs and other phyto and zooplanktons. So here's an example of your Radiolaria and Foraminifera. No? So for the Radiolaria, if you try to look at the body plan, it's radial. No? So in your Foraminifera, kanang highly, kanang saan siya, spherical also. No? When you go to the second group of your supergroup SAR, no, you have now your alveolates or alveolata. So under your alveolata, now I made mention about the apicomplexa. Your apicomplexa very complex and